Pete's Germs. Now let's talk about Gene Marks. He is president of the Marks Group, a 10-person technology consulting firm, and Washington Post, Hill contributor, with a big focus on small business. And we keep seeing these reports, and now another one just came out about consumer confidence in their personal finance getting stronger and stronger in this country, despite people saying that you know what, we're going to crash soon, or these good times won't continue to roll. Gene, welcome back.
Brian, thanks for having me on. I want to be on record to your entire audience that I do wash my hands frequently.
Thank goodness.
Yes.
That's why you're in studio and not outside.
That's why you
with
had
Pete.
me in here, so I appreciate that.
So, Gene, first off, are you somebody watching the market up and down and saying, uh-oh, it's going to be a tough 2019? From the small business perspective?
No, first of all, if we're talking from a small business perspective, 2019 is not going to be a tough year. It's going to be pretty much of a non-year for small businesses. I mean, most of the clients that I talk to, Brian, the way we look at it is Congress is at a stalemate right now. You know, my dad passed away about 10 years ago. He was a small business owner, and he always used to say to me, Gene, when the government is not involved, we can just be left alone and do what we got to do. And one of the good things I think about 2019 is that most small business owners are going to be left to do what they need to do. So that's good. Now, 2020 comes around, 2021, that'll be a different story. So for business owners, I think it will be a good year. Most of them are optimistic. I
mean, the thing that hurt business probably the most is, number one, minimum wage is going to affect business. And number two is healthcare. If I'm forced to give my employees health insurance, I'm going to have the biggest heart in the world. But when I look at my margins, my profit margins, I can't afford, if I go over a certain threshold of hiring, to give he or she health insurance. So I keep that number lower.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let's talk about minimum wage. I mean, what people don't understand about minimum wage is that, even though it's focused at like the lowest level people, the unskilled workers, it has an upward effect on everybody. If you're going to increase the minimum wage to $15 an hour, which is now what they're going to do in New Jersey, for example, the guy that's making $15 an hour now is going to see like an unskilled worker.
22.
Yeah. He said, hey, what about me? I should be getting a raise as well. So for a person running a business, it's not just increasing the wage at that lowest level. It's really affects all the wages of everybody in your company. And then that brings up healthcare, right? Because that's also tied to it. It's a very important benefit. And we're lucky this year, Brian, that healthcare expenses, despite everything going on in D.C., are somewhat manageable this year. They're only like an 8 to 9% increase on average around the country, which for any other line item on a P&L would be like an extraordinary increase. For healthcare, we're like, thank goodness it's not double digits.
I hear they're starting to make some progress on prescription drugs.
They are.
By exposing the prices and letting them compete.
Yeah, they are. My biggest disappointment so far is that the Trump administration is not pushing more aggressively their association health plans. I mean, they came out with the ruling last year.
What are association health plans?
So association health plans basically means that any association, it doesn't even have to be a specific industry association, like you and me, if we are running businesses, we can form a health plan together. We can form an association together. As long as our businesses have more than 100 employees, then we can apply for insurance that are not subject to the more onerous rules of Obamacare.
Why do insurance companies want us to do this?
Well, I don't know if insurance companies necessarily want us to do this.
But why are we more attractive in a bigger group?
It's more flexible. So what happens to that is that, we can now be pooled with other employees. So therefore we can have more flexible options. And therefore we can pull out certain benefits that we might not want to provide to our employees. We're not subject to some of the required benefits that Obamacare has. So depending on your demographics, depending on the employees that you have, Brian, you can be saying, listen, we're not going to provide this benefit because really none of our employees are going to use it, but our rates, our premiums are going to be that much lower. It's a better choice.
With me in studio is Gene Marks, focusing on small business. You see his columns at Washington Post, The Hill, an author, and he's president of the Marks Group. So everyone's doing their business as well as their personal tax returns.
Yeah.
And now we're going to get the idea of what this tax plan really does. Now, I'm starting to put it together.
Yeah.
And they said, just brace yourself, because if you live in New York, any of these major cities, you no longer can write off state and federal
state
so-called
tax.
SALT.
Yeah, that's correct. Your state and local taxes. So that's a big impact for a lot of people that live in those states, and I sympathize with that. But I got to tell you, that is another thing that's going on right now about how the media is covering taxes right now. For starters, there's this report that came in that people are receiving lower refunds than they were expected compared to last year. Yeah, which first of all, we are so early into the process right now as a CPA, and the IRS was held up in business for the entire month of January. And besides that, when people are upset because they don't have enough refunds coming back, they're thinking of the wrong thing. You and I should not have...
That means we were overtaxed.
Yeah, we gave too much money to the government. Having no refund is a good thing. Paying no, having no payment day is also a good... It should be zero. So when people are complaining that they don't have a big refund as they had last year, they should be applauding themselves and their accountants on the back and saying, well, we did a better job estimating our taxes.
In one way, Gene, but can't you also say this? Can you also say some of the things you do in the investment you have, whether it's a career or business improvement, that's stuff you write off, knowing that at the end of the year you're going to get some of that money back. I bought a new truck. True. I changed my logo, whatever those things are.
True, but if you estimate your taxes through your withholdings or through your estimate if you're a business as well, it really should net out. And the other thing that's important to keep in mind, there's a lot of media talk about the impact of the tax cuts and what they're going to have on businesses, and right now, as we've just seen by the reports, we're just doing our taxes right now. I mean, people are finding out what their business owners have paid in their taxes during the year. Their returns are not due until March 15th. In some cases, they're going to extend it. They're not even going to know what the tax impact was in 2018 from this new Tax Reform Act. So we don't know how much money they're going to have in their pockets until they actually finish doing the process. Once they finish doing that, people forget this is like a long-term thing. Like the Tax Reform Act wasn't just a one-and-done deal. We're going to be seeing the effects of this over the next, hopefully, 5, 6, 7, how long does it last? So every year, if a business owner knows that their overall tax exposure is that much lower, how much more will they invest and how much more will they be
I know about the bonuses that were given to different employees, and Nancy Pelosi famously called them crumbs.
Yeah.
However, when you have such a dramatic reduction in the corporate tax rate, do you have enough of a test, now that we're 1 year old with this, what kind of impact it's had?
We don't. We're not even barely into it right now. I mean, again, people think that...
I mean, it went from 35 to 21, right?
Which is fantastic. So hopefully a lot of the corporations have been adjusting their estimated payments because they can afford tax professionals to do this, and they're taking their money and reinvesting it. Now, there was funny, I wrote just recently about how Netflix paid no U.S. taxes last year. Well, they took advantage of some pretty serious tax rules, the R&D tax credit, the foreign tax credit, and tax credits on or deductions they could take for compensation to their highly paid individuals. In addition to that, a lot of companies are using their tax savings to buy back their stock. And when you look at public companies buying back their stock, people get complaining because the money's going back to their investors or to the shareholders. That's a good thing, because what do the shareholders do with that money? Right. They turn around and invest and spend with small businesses.
And think about, too, how many people Netflix employs, how many movies they actually commissioned, right? How much money they put into the churn and into our company. So you're paying taxes on the fly.
I agree. And every dollar they spend is more dollars that can go into the next season of Ozark, which is fantastic.
I've never seen it, but I heard a lot about it.
Highly recommend watching it. It's just a great show.
I do find I got a new smart TV, and they're smart enough to put up the Netflix as an option. I'm still, in my mind, still clicking through cable, and I have to go search for Netflix. Now all the little boxes pop up, and I'm like, wait a second. I'm looking to expand at this age. Congratulations, Gene, on all your success. Thanks so much, and it's going to be a very interesting tax season because we're going to see the impact in the economy. All I can say is,
a good year.
And the country had a good year. I know the deficit's growing. That bothers me. It should bother everybody.
Me too.
But the other story is when things are going well, it's amazing how people go out of their way to find something negative. My goodness. Relax.
Couldn't agree with you more. And I guess that's why some people like to complain about, well, I'm not as optimistic as I was before. Well, optimism is still historically at one of the highest levels ever. I mean, we're, when you look at it over the past 20 years, it is a great time to own and run a small business. A great time to be in the country.
And it was a great time to launch Fox Nation right over your shoulder. That happened this year, and that's where you could see us.